Today our case brings us to New South Wales in Australia and to an area known as Padstow, which is a suburb around 25 kilometres southwest of the Sydney Central Business District. Before I go any further, I can't stress enough that some things I speak of here is allegedly, as one party is not here to speak for themselves. I would also ask you to be respectful in the comments, please. In 2017, an Irish couple, Tina Cahill, 27, and David Walsh, 29, lived together in a shared house with two other female friends of Tina's, just off Watson Road. They both had moved to Australia in 2013, Tina being from New Ross in County Wexford and David from Enniscorthy in County Wexford. They both hadn't known each other while living in Ireland, even though they were from the same county and lived only 30 minutes from each other. They had met in a pub at Bondi Junction in 2014 when they were both on a night out. They hit it off straight away. David had worked in construction in Australia and had been a carpenter here in Ireland. He was also the father of 4 children who lived in Ireland. It was reported in newspapers that he had fled to Australia after being allegedly charged with assault on an ex-girlfriend, 3 Gardaí at Enniscorthy Garda Station and a man. Tina in 2017 worked for a traffic management company in Australia. To say their relationship was a volatile one would be an understatement. They both gave as good as they got. But Tina would later claim that David was the aggressor and her violence was a reaction, a defence. Both Tina and David would experience physical violence towards each other, neighbours even reporting that they often heard screaming and shouting from both parties and glass and furniture being broken. It was reported that neither were averse to laying their hands on each other. David was said to be very possessive over Tina, and this would manifest in many rows according to her. David would get aggressive and sometimes violent towards other men if he thought they even looked at Tina. There would be many incidents in the house also, it being reported that David had once thrown a glass bottle at the brand new TV. Tina also alleged that David would have sex with her without her consent, even while she slept. In 2015, there were several incidents between the couple. In September that same year, an AVO was granted to Tina against David. This is an apprehended violence order, similar to a protection order here in Ireland. But in November, another AVO would be granted, this time against Tina, in favour of David. You see, in November of that same year, there would be an incident. Isabel Jennings, a housemate, heard an argument between Tina and David and the smashing of glass. Isabel ran to their bedroom and found David crying and his forehead split open. Witnesses would testify that Tina told them that David had thrown a glass candlestick holder at her, and with her back to him, she threw it back at him over her shoulder, hitting him in the forehead. David did go to the police and charges were brought against Tina. She was found guilty of reckless wounding and was ordered to undergo domestic violence rehabilitation. A testimony was given by Isabel Jennings about another incident the previous month. On the evening of the 3rd of October, after hearing Tina and David arguing, she came out of her bedroom once again. She saw David sitting on a sofa with his head in his hands in an upstairs sitting room. She told the court she then saw Tina walking up the stairs with her hand behind her back. Tina proceeded to stab David 3 to 4 times in the head. At first, Isabel thought Tina was just hitting him with her fist, but then after a few seconds she realised she was using a knife. David said he did not want to report the incident to the police, as Tina had not meant to hurt him. Despite their volatile relationship, the couple announced their engagement on New Year's Eve 2016. Photographs of the couple were put up all over their Facebook pages, and it looked like the pair had come full circle and put their troubles behind them. But this would not be the case, unfortunately. On the 17th of February 2017, the couple had gone out for the night with 2 female friends. They first went to the Cock and Bull Hotel, also known as the Grand Hotel, in Bondi Junction, and then on to the Doncaster Hotel in Kensington. Of course, while they were out, another row broke out between the couple, and David left, but it is alleged that he did not go straight home, but instead went to the Coach and Horse Hotel in Randwick, and then went home. When he finally got home, he did not have his keys and so had to break in. He soon fell asleep on the couch. Meanwhile, the women continued drinking and met up with a local man, Matthew Hyde. At the end of the night, the women invited him back to their house. On entering the house, they saw the front door was broken and found David asleep on the couch. With all the noise they were making, David woke up, and with this, he saw Matthew standing there. David's reaction was not good, and in a temper he asked, "Who the fuck are you?" hitting Matthew from behind. His instant thought was that he had come home with Tina, not knowing that the man was actually interested in one of the other women. Tina tried to intervene and calm the situation by telling him the man had come home with Grace. According to a statement of agreed facts, David repeatedly punched Matthew, bit him on the face, then grabbed him by the hair, slamming his face to the floor. Tina screamed at him to stop and pulled on his arm to try and get him off Matthew. But David swung his arm back and Tina fell to the floor. She moved towards him again and this time punched him in the face with a closed fist. David again pushed her away and tried to punch her. It was then that Tina went to the cutlery drawer and quickly took out a large knife. Witnesses' agreed statements said Tina was told to calm down, and by now Grace too was trying to get David off Matthew. Tina was heard saying, "No, he needs to be taught a lesson. It's not fair. Look at poor Matthew." With this, she went over to David, stabbed him in the neck, pulled out the knife and dropped it to the floor. David began to bleed profusely with blood coming out of his neck along with his mouth. He accepted a tea towel from one of the witnesses who passed it to him and he yelled, "Call an ambulance." David then went outside and collapsed. Once the emergency services arrived, they attended to him, but it was too late and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Tina was arrested and Matthew was brought to the hospital. In a police interview, Tina told officers, "I stepped in to help and I stabbed him. Tina was eventually charged with murder and remanded in custody without bail. Matthew was interviewed and released without charge. The post-mortem was done on David and his body was released to his family. Both his parents and some of his brothers had flown out to Australia once they got the news of David's death. He was then repatriated back to Ireland and his funeral took place on the 1st of March in St Aidan's Cathedral in Enniscorthy. Independent County Councillor and childhood friend to David, John O'Rourke, told the Irish Post that the local community were numb at the news of his killing. He said the David he knew was boisterous, outgoing, friendly and sport-orientated. In October 2018, Tina appeared at the New South Wales Supreme Court in Sydney. The murder trial was due to last 8 weeks, but at the last minute the charge was downgraded to the charge of manslaughter. This was due to it being determined by psychiatric reports that deemed Tina to be suffering from PTSD due to the emotional and physical abuse she had suffered within her relationship with David. The defence entered a guilty plea to manslaughter. This was accepted by the judge. Many hearings will be held before sentencing and victim impact statements were prepared by the Walsh family. Tina also got to have her say, telling the judge the violence and control she had suffered in the relationship. Valentine cards were submitted to the court where he seemingly admitted to the mistreatment of Tina and apologised, telling her he would do better. He would for a time, said Tina. It would last for a few weeks and then the abuse would start up again. When asked why she didn't leave, she told the court that she really loved David and adored him, and when things were good, they were good. She said she packed her bags many times, but he would always get around her to stay. When asked about how happy she looked in the engagement photographs 5 weeks before the killing of David, she admitted she was happy. She thought they had turned a corner and that things would be different. Tina admitted she had problems with binge drinking and had used the white stuff, but before the killing she had cut back on both substances. On the 12th of December 2018, after all the witnesses spoke and statements were submitted, Tina appeared at the Supreme Court once more for sentencing. Victim impact statements were submitted and read out in court. One was from a 13-year-old girl who couldn't be named for legal reasons. She said directly to Tina, "If this happened to you, how would you feel? I don't know how you feel, because you don't have a heart. You don't care, but I do. We do. I hope you rot in hell." David's ex-girlfriend and mother to 3 of his children also wrote an impact statement. She was furious that the charges had been downgraded. She said, To say you have PTSD is a joke. You are a joke. Murder is murder to us, and that will always be your title. One of David's brothers told the court that when his father John had heard of David's death, he told his son, "I don't want him up there on his own. I'm going to be with him soon." 10 months later, he was dead. The family also spoke of David's mother, saying she was an empty shell of her former self. The judge accepted that David was abusive towards Tina and that the offence was committed in the heat of the moment and there was not an intention to kill. He acknowledged the Walsh's victim impact statements and the fact that David was far away from home when he died. Tina's parents were at the hearings and sentencing. Her father had told the court that Tina had hid the nature of her relationship from them, and that if he had known what was happening, he would have gone to Australia and got her and brought her home. 2 of Tina's ex-boyfriends also submitted character references, saying that she had never been violent with them, that she was a bright, bubbly girl. One saying the only reason they broke up was because of Tina moving to Australia, and if she hadn't, they'd still be together. The judge noted that the couple's relationship was violent and degrading. He also said that the pair had a 2-way domestic violent relationship with repeated episodes of violence and had 2 AVOs in place at the time of the killing. Tina was sentenced to 8 years in prison with a non-parole period of 5 years, and upon her release she was to be deported back to Ireland.
What began as a murder case ended today with a sentencing for manslaughter. Katrina Cahill, better known as Tina, was jailed for 8 years with a 5-year non-parole period for killing her partner David Walsh in February last year. Her parents had travelled from Ireland to support her in the gallery.
The offender's crime is a very serious one, but is to be understood in the unusual and extreme circumstances which then existed in her life.
The Irish couple's relationship was described as violent on both sides. Cahill had previously had an AVO imposed on her to protect Mr Walsh after she attacked him in 2015. On the night he died, both of them had been drinking. Cahill stabbed Mr Walsh in the neck with a kitchen knife while he was fighting another man in their share house in Padstow.
I am not satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the offender intended to kill Mr Walsh.
The original murder charge was downgraded to manslaughter on the grounds that Cahill was suffering from a significant depressive order, the judge accepting that it was the result of years of physical and emotional abuse suffered at the hands of her partner.
She was genuinely sorry for taking the life of Mr Walsh and causing harm to his family members as a result of this act.
Cahill is expected to be deported back to Ireland after she's released, which, with time already served, could be in a little over 3 years.
It is said that Tina was a model prisoner, and it is reported that she knows what she did was wrong and that she must serve her time. Tina was released from prison in February 2022 after serving 5 years, including time served while on remand. She was then deported back to Ireland to live with her parents. This is a story of 2 tales, or maybe it is better to say this is a cautionary tale. Whatever you think of the victim and the perpetrator, or who you decide which is which, there's no taking away the fact that 4 children grew up without their father, and a family lost a loved one that they held dear to their hearts, and nothing will take that away. David was not there to defend himself at trial, and so his family did their best to step up for him. I think neither of them were angels, nor should they have ever been together in the first place. Once again, I ask you to be respectful, as the family will most likely be in the comments. Rest in peace, David. Thank you for watching as always, and please check out my new channel, Irish Coffee True Crime International. I will leave a link in the comments.